it's your man James, Mr. Sequential Treasures, back again with some more video action for you. Today is something that I've been trying to get these going, and it didn't seem to be happening too much. But it's the Sequential Art Showcase, and for those of you new here, what the Sequential Art Showcase is I get together with a cool artist, and we talk about their art, and we each showcase a piece of their work, one that I own and one that they still own of their work, and it's kind of give you guys a little something special, because sometimes these artists, they keep a lot of their stuff, and you never see it out at market. So here's a chance for you to see some stuff you've probably never seen before on the market, and that's always a cool thing for folks. And we get to know the artist a bit and see what they're doing, as far as their work and whatnot. And it's just a fun time for everybody. And I really like doing these. It's probably the most favorite thing I like to do. If I wish I could do them more often, but of course it takes a lot of time coordinating with people and things, so they don't happen as often as I would like. But when I do them, they're always a good time. And today's a special one for me. This is an artist who I have a lot of respect for. Someone, I grew up reading, his work, Hawkman, the Atom, Spider-Man. I mean, he's kind of been all around. He's done lots of stuff, smaller press companies like Shadow Tiger. I mean, just all kinds of stuff, along with his own creations like Joe Frankenstein and Monster Island and all kinds of other great stuff, which we're all going to get into when we talk with him. And of course, he's known best for Batman, and of course, this guy right here, he is the co-creator of one of the greatest Batman villains of all time. So here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Graham Nolan. Graham, welcome to the show.
Thank you, James. Nice to be here.
Yeah. So how you doing? Everything going good over there at Compass Comic Central over there?
Oh, Compass's Comics is good, but yeah, I busted a wheel on my snowblower yesterday, so I'm afraid that if Chenoo weather comes in, I'm going to be in trouble.
That's right. Well, hey,
anytime he's already here.
He's just in the background waiting for you.
Yeah. What?
But I want to thank Graham for joining me today. And just before we go any further, I wanted to tell you guys that if you like what you see with this, please drop some likes on the video to help out the algorithm. It's always appreciated. Also, if you got any comments after it's all over, drop them down there. I always like to hear from the people, because just like Graham, I care what people think. So I want to hear what you got to say. Also, share out some links so others can join in the fun here with us. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, do so you don't miss awesome stuff like this that I'm trying to get down there on the regular on here. So with all that out of the way, let's get into it here. And Graham, we let a little Q&A with the artist before we get into the artwork and whatnot. So just start off with what made little Graham want to be a comic artist? Where did it all begin for him? What brought him to where you are now?
Well, I started off as a monster kid, watching monster movies and monster magazines, and there was a crossover because they would always cover comic books as well, and what was happening in the comic community. So I would see comic related stuff that was going on. And then in the 6th grade, my teacher brought in a stack of comics for the kids to read during recess or in between tests or something like that. And one of them was a Justice League comic, and it was it had all these characters that I knew from media, Superman, Batman, Green Arrow, Aquaman, not Green Arrow, Green Lantern. And I thought that was really cool. And that's what really triggered me into comics at that point. So then I went down to the local comic luncheon. It was a luncheonette back then, newsstand type thing where you could buy comics. That's where I discovered the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and all these other characters, Spider-Man I knew, of course, from the cartoon, but the Fantastic Four and these monster comics too, Werewolf by Night, and all the comics I bought for the first time. I realized when I look back at them, all had a monster theme to them. You had the Thing, of course, from the Fantastic Four. The first Spider-Man comic I bought, he was fighting Morbius, the living vampire, and the Man-Wolf, the Hulk. These are all these things, that I was like, I seem to have a theme here.
Yes, I know how you feel. It's like you said, my journey was a little different. It took a long time to get there, but when I finally got in, it was just like, it just opened up a whole world to me. I was like, wow, this is just awesome stuff. And so who were some of your influences artistically? Like, who were like you reading in those comics? You're like, oh, this guy is awesome. I want to do this.
Well, the first guy was John Romita. When I saw, I could immediately recognize his work. It was so slick and clean, and he just drew so beautifully. He was sort of the face of Marvel at that time. We're talking about 1974. He was the art director and did a lot of covers and retouching on covers and stuff like that. So he was the first guy that I gravitated towards. But I also loved Kurt Swan and what he was doing with Superman, and Irv Novick, and Rich Buckler even. I mean, I didn't realize Rich Buckler was stealing from Jack Kirby at the time because I hadn't seen the original material, but I liked it. Who else? John Buscema, of course, Savage Sword of Conan. First one I ever bought was #2. Just a classic. It's got this Neil Adams cover. It's got Black Colossus by Roy Thomas, John Buscema, and Alfredo Alcala. It's the first time those two were paired up together, and it was like, this stuff was blowing me away. Jim Aparo, of course, I always loved Jim's work, especially during that period. That was his peak, you know, just killer stuff. And yeah, of course, Kirby too. I mean, Kirby did Monster comics and Fantastic Four comics that I had read in reprints, and I remember thinking, this guy's work is so powerful. You know, I couldn't put my finger on it then what it was about it, like I can now, but at the time it really connected.
Yeah, I guess I've in talking with artists and whatnot, and my own, journey in comics. You know, at first, when I first got into comics, I saw Kirby's art. I thought it was kind of simplistic at the time, because I got in the late '80s. So I had guys like, Michael Golden, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Wallace Portacio, these guys, these super detailed, artwork styles that just explode off the page with pizzazz and verve. And, and when you see Kirby stuff next to that, it does seem simplistic, but then what you have to understand is that, the whole point of that is they can do what they do because of the foundation that a guy like Kirby has laid with camera angles and anatomy and how to warp it so that it stays still believable, yet still can go into the realm of the fantastic and not break the suspension of disbelief, all that kind of stuff, the layout designs you do, all that stuff. These are all the foundational things that artists need. And if you have that, then if you want to add on top of it, oh, look at this detail I can put in the backgrounds or on the characters or in the costume designs, that's all great. But without those fundamentals, all of it, all your detail is just chaos, and that's all it is. And so that's what I've come to understand a lot with guys like Kirby, is they really laid a foundation for what we see as the modern comic. And everybody owes debts of gratitude to guys like Kirby and Ditko and Big John Buscema. These guys kind of laid those foundations for everybody to
Kirby and Ditko actually created a language, a visual language that people still use today. If you wrote a script and you said, okay, Dr. Strange goes into this nether world. Well, what's a nether world? What is that like? What are the what are those things? The unbeings or whatever, in Dormammu's world.
The mindless one.
The mindless one. Yeah. What does that look like? I mean, and he created, these dimensional things to represent dimensions and drawings. And Kirby too, Kirby Crackle. His energy and stuff, it's explosive. People didn't just stand around in Kirby comics, they move and they live and they're full of life,
Yeah, and and again, just and even there, they get their thing. You mentioned the Kirby Crackle. When you see that, you're like, oh, I know what that is. Or what I call the Kirby Squiggle. There's these especially on metal surfaces, it'll just this line, and there's a little squiggle in there, and then it's just straight line again. It's this. That's the Kirby Squiggle. I know it. As minute I see, I'm like, oh, that's the Kirby Squiggle. And again, I was talking to an artist a while ago, Joe St. Pierre, and he talked about how there are certain things that artists have done, especially guys like Ditko and Kirby, who, like you said, it's the language. He goes, for example, Spider-Man by Ditko. He goes, when you see the lines above the head, he goes, there's no words there. It's not telling you what it is, but you see that image, you know, oh, that's his spider sense. He goes, it's a
Mm-hmm.
visual thing that
Yep.
is like, is you immediately know what that is. Or if you see Wolverine, or you don't have to see him, just hear the word schnitt somewhere in the background, like, oh, I know what that is. That's the claws. And it's something that has become just ubiquitous with these with the characters and with the art, that, you know, it's a visual thing just to cues you in to what you're actually about to see. And again, like I said, these are like fundamentals that I think a lot of guys in the modern era, these new guys coming up, these guys who were basically fresh off a Tumblr and whatnot, they don't understand any of this stuff. It seems they don't seem to have that understanding of those fundamentals, and it really reflects poorly in the work, which is why I think, you know, the past stuff is just so vastly superior.
Yeah,
Anything you
well, I
saw.
mean, there's some good guys out there today, but the majority of them I find tend to have learned comics from copying guys who did comics. So they're getting watered down versions of Kirby, watered down versions of John Buscema, and then by extension, then you have watered down versions of Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane. You know,
Yeah.
and they repeat the same mistakes those guys made. They don't they don't try to improve on it.
No.
And you know, so it retards the drawing skill and the storytelling skills, and I find that a lot of young artists today try to hide all their mistakes behind extraneous detail. You know, guys like Hubert, guys like Alex Toth, they could draw the shit out of everything, but they
Yeah.
didn't. They drew the shit out of everything that was important, and then let your eye wander around.
Yes.
You know, and that's what storytelling is about. Storytelling in comics, there's three tenets that I always preach: clarity, dynamics, and immersion. You know, make your storytelling clear, make them dynamic, and if you do those two things properly, you will immerse the reader into the story you're trying to tell. If they have to stop to admire all the cracks in a brick that you drew, or all the doodads on a costume, all that kind of shit, they're not in the story anymore. They're looking at the page, they're looking at the artwork. And to my way of thinking, you've lost them, because it's all about the story. It's all about immersing them in that for the 20 minutes it takes to read a comic or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, you need that like you said, that immersion is what you want. That's the ultimate goal, I think, of any should be of any creator in comics, is to get that. And I think you're missing a lot of that today. They don't seem to be focused on such things as that. They're focused either more on style over substance, or
Yeah.
you know, or pushing narratives and agendas that they have personally and politically, that they say, I want to get this message through, and I don't care if I have to break everything around me to get it in there. That's what I'm going to do. And it's like that destroys the whole concept of what storytelling is supposed to be.
Well, you know, that all is fine, because comics is a medium. It's an art form. And you can do any kind of story, the stupidest story you want, or the most political story you want. Where I draw the line is when you're doing commercial comics for, you know, American superhero publishers, adding that shit in there, because they're not your characters, for one thing. And secondly, that's not what they're about. If you want to tell your personal story and your political gripes and everything, that's great. Make it great. You know, tell that story, and then stand behind your ability to sell it or not sell it. You know, but when you jump into the waters of creations of giants that have created this stuff, and try to not bend the character but break the character to fit your narrative, that's when I've got problems.
Well, you know, that's something I learned. You know, one of my favorite writers of all time is Bill Mantlo. I've always loved Bill's work. He's probably like top 5, maybe even top 3 favorite writers of all time, because I've heard said of him is that he knew how to get any character's voice just right. Like he didn't write the character to fit his story. He wrote his story to fit the character he was working on. You know, it's like the Hulk sounds like the Hulk. Spider-Man sounds like Spider-Man, you know. And you know, so he didn't like try to force the character to be what he wanted it to be. He tailored his craft to say, this is what the character is, this is what I have to do to make it work. And I think, again, it's just another thing that's kind of missing in today's work, you know. But that's why I enjoy stuff from like guys like you and Chuck Dixon. You know, I always got, you know, but you guys working on something. Oh, I got Chuck and Graham. I got to pick that up. You know, because to me, you are one of, for me, my premier Batman artists. It's you, Brave Fogel, and Aparo. Those are the 3. those are the three, like, to me, that the holy trinity of the Batman artists in my life, my lifetime, it just, because I just loved all your styles. And I actually own some original. I own a piece of by Jim from the 10 Nights of the Beast storyline, which was a classic. And it's the first Batman story I ever picked up off the newsstand was that storyline. So I own a page of that by him. And it's just, again, there's no Batman or Beast on it, but when you see, again, you can see the fundamentals. He's got, like, there's this one page on the a row of panels. It's just headshots, and just even in that you can see like a storytelling. Like each character looks different. They have different expressions and things, and it's like it's getting across a whole lot of information even with just that little bit. And that to me is like, that's a fundamental in comics. It's how you project what it is you want people to understand in the story that way.
Yeah, Jim was an excellent storyteller. Really excellent storyteller. He brought advertising skills, advertising work, and illustration work into it with a spice of Milton Caniff style cartooning. So he emulated Neil Adams because that was popular at the time, but he was also influenced by the Frank Robbins, Milton Caniff style as well, and he married those two things together to create this cartoony realism, which in his prime, like from 1972 to 1977, I mean, you just can't touch him. It's just amazing.
Yeah, like I say, he's considered, at least for the Bronze Age, to be the definitive Batman artist of the Bronze Age, and again, exactly for the reasons you stated why. I think
more people would know of Jim if he wasn't on Brave and Bold, if he was on Batman that whole time, or Detective Comics. Even he had a short run on Detective with Archie Goodwin, which Archie's one of my all-time favorite writers. That lasted only like 4 issues, something like that, 4 or 5 issues, I think, before he went back to Brave and Bold. I don't know why. Maybe Jim just liked drawing multiple characters, but I think he'd be more revered today if he was on a bigger book than Brave and Bold.
Well, again, you yourself have done plenty of big books in your time. Again, your detective run, again, is to me is one of the gold standards. Like, I think that's like the last really great run, in fact, of the book was like you and Chuck working on it. And it just, there have been good stories since then and all that. But I mean, just like the consistency of just solid, good, well-crafted entertainment. I don't think there's been anything since you guys were on the book. And it just kind of like, again, you can just feel it in the work today. You can feel it in the stories, how it's just something missing. And you guys had that great collaborative effort with you guys and Scott Hanna. I actually met Scott at a show recently last year. He was at a show out my way here, and we had a laugh about this. He goes, he's the most prolific inker in comic book history, and he goes, and Chuck is the most prolific writer in comic history. He goes, but when you guys are all working on Batman, he goes, him and Chuck would needle you saying, but Graham, you're not the most prolific penciler in comic book history.
Well, at that time, they were neither the most prolific inker or the most prolific writer. That came years later, decades later.
Yes. But like I said, I just love all that I think that kind of camaraderie, I think, really got through in the work as well. The way you guys worked together so well for so long, and it really came through, and I really appreciate that about it. Above all else, I appreciated that, because that to me is what it's like when you watch old TV shows and stuff, and you see the actors working together. You find out later, like, oh, behind the scenes they hate each other. Like, oh, that kind of ruins it a bit, because I thought they were so good on screen together, and it's like you want to believe that off screen they're also cool with each other and stuff. And so when I heard that, and I'm like, oh, that's sweet, because these guys got the camaraderie going. I love that.
Well, that part's true, the camaraderie. I mean, I talk with Chuck regularly, still, even after all these years. We get on the phone, we talk, see how the family's doing, and what are you working on, and hey, did you see that movie? Yeah, oh yeah, or what's going on in politics? We'll just go on for hours.
Yeah. Well, speaking of going on, it's time to get on with our show here. So, time now to bring in some artwork. So, what I'll do here is I'll shrink us down because we don't need to see our big heads. And we'll share the screen here. And we'll bring up the first piece here. This is my piece, folks. This is the piece of art by Graham that I own, and I'm very happy to own this one. You're going to find when you see Graham's piece and mine, there's sort of a plays on a theme. Let's just put it that way. And here we go. This is from Vengeance of Bane 2, The Redemption. And you know, this is just a classic scene here. The whole reason I got this is just for that last shot of Bane with the grating over his face in shadow, and then what he says here, where she's telling about, like, you know, without a deal you could be looking at a life sentence. And he goes, I've been serving a life sentence since I first drew breath. It's like, to me, oh, that's so the character of Bane. In just one bubble. If you need one bubble of dialogue to say what is Bane all about, this is what Bane is all about. And you know, this is inked by the great Eduardo Barreto. You know, very sad when he passed. But again, you guys did a great combination. You did both the first Bane special and you did this one as well. So it's kind of like the bookends. And I love the layout here. Just like you just had the classic, like the whole top heavy, like the classic panel layout until you get to that big shot at the bottom. And I just love that. Was that like an intensive choice that you did, or was it just something you just said, I just want to, like, you know, get as much information on the page as I want? How did you come across to do the layout this way?
Well, all my layouts are intended. You know, it's again to tell the story in the most interesting way. This is basically a talking heads page. And to make that interesting, you have to have your camera moving in and out, and you have to have different angles. I really learned a lot about this kind of storytelling when I was working in the newspaper strips, doing like soap opera strips, because it's all talking heads. How do you make that look interesting? Well, you look at guys like Leonard Starr, and you look at Stan Drake, and see how they did it, and you see how they move the camera around, and to make it interesting. With a comic book page, I've got more real estate to work with. So I could do traditional straight panels like that, and then break the panel with the most interesting piece, which would be Bane's head at the end. That makes the page what's called a page turner. You know, you get down there, you see that big head, and you hear his piece of dialogue, and you want to see what's happening next.
Yeah, again, I guess, and I really like this page because, like, this is like right after Nightfall. He's basically a broken man at this point. You know, he went out to break the bat, and instead now he's the broken man. I've just really loved, like I said, just the whole feeling of the paging. It's a very dour page, very, you know, like, you know, emotional type of page, which is something you wouldn't think of with a character like Bane, and yet it is. You know,
this is chubby Bane too.
Yeah, it's just this is like, you know, this is like like I said, he's a broken man, and it's a very emotional moment. Even though you may not think so, but it shows you still that even in emotion, he's still a hard man. You know, he's not. You know, he doesn't want a trial. I won't plead guilty. I'm not going to admit. You know, say I'm crazy and go to Arkham. You know, no deals. You know, no pleas. I mean, just, you know, he's totally a hard man. But yet you can see in like this shot right here with the nice color hold shot here with the cross hatching here. I just that facial expression, you can see, like, the you know, the loss in his face. He knows he's lost. He's down. He's out, and it's just I just the emotion that you get through in here is just incredible. Again, with just simple panel shots. You know, sometimes far away, sometimes close up, but no matter how they are, you get the emotion of the moment, and it all comes into that final image right down here, where you got just, you know, that shot, and then and then what he says is just, it's like mwah, chef's kiss. That is perfection.
Yeah, Chuck's dialogue is great there. What we were doing with this series, this particular book, was we were taking Bane off of Venom. We didn't want him to be dependent on it anymore, and so the whole point of this was him building himself back up from scratch without the use of Venom, to become more dangerous than he was before. But, you know, what we found out is that people wanted the Venom. People wanted the pipes in the head and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, we eventually returned him to that because that's what the fans want. You know, it gave him a more unique look too. So
yeah. Well, something I was wondering though is I noticed here with, like, a lot of this cross hatching, like right here in the face and up here. Now, was that you laying that down, or is that Barreto coming in and doing, you know, adding that texture? to things.
Well, I probably cross hatched it like there to grade it, and then Ed, would have used whatever technique he liked as far as uh, you know how he approaches cross hatching. I'd have done it a little finer, um, so that it would gray out a little bit more even. But that was just his choices at that point. Once it gets to him, then it's again, it's the choices he makes in the interpretation of the pencils.
Well, it just goes back to something that Dan Lawless has said to me many times. He goes, the best thing you can hope for in this industry is to get an inker who understands your pencils and what it is you're trying to do. He goes, that's the best you can hope for. He goes, once in a while you may get someone who's it can take your pencils to the next level. He goes, but that's a very rare occurrence. He goes, more often than not, it's either you get someone who understands them or someone who doesn't, and you definitely don't want the latter.
Well, I've always been of the mind is that I want an inker who's going to bring something to the table. I don't want a tracer. I don't want him to just trace my drawings. I want him to bring something here, whether it be texture or a style, a line weight, something. And Eduardo was an incredible artist, period, not an inker. The guy could draw circles around most people. So working with Ed was great. He understood drawing, so if I made a mistake, he could correct it.
Well, I mean, the thing I've noticed with inkers is, the way to tell really good inkers from ones who are either satisfactory or subpar is if they understand how to pencil. Because I've noticed a lot of there are guys who can pencil really well, but they don't know how to ink. But inkers, I've noticed a lot of inkers, they know how to pencil, and the really good ones can pencil well. So it's like you said, like Eduardo, he was just a great artist because he does great inks on you, but he could do all the work himself, and it's still great. And that's something I've noticed. All the best inkers, they know how to pencil, and it's like if you're gonna. So I guess that's how they get to understand how the collaborative effort would work. With another artist, like, hey, I know how this works because I can do this too.
Yeah, not all of them can draw as well as pencilers, which is why they're probably not doing it, or they can't tell stories visually. But they have an understanding of anatomy and light and shading and stuff like that enough to where they understand what it is that's down on the paper when they're trying to ink it. Then there's the guys like Eduardo who are or was a great penciler as well. I've had a lot of really great inkers, from Tom Palmer to Klaus Janson to Bill Sienkiewicz. All those guys can do all that stuff. Some of them were more successful on me than others, from my own personal taste. Dick Giordano, another one. They just bring different styles, and I've learned from each one. Like in my own inks, I would study, well, okay, here's my pencils, that hasn't changed. How did they approach it? And I would look at line weights and stuff like that, and then I would adapt some of that stuff into my own inking style to learn from them, so that now, I've been inking my own work for 20 some odd years now. It was a great learning experience for me to have those great guys, doing my work so that I could learn from them.
Well, that brings an interesting question. Of all the people who've inked you over the years, who is your personal favorite? Like the one you thought, like, this guy was really the one that I thought did the best with my pencils. He as Dan Lewis said, he kind of elevated me. We were like it was like the best work my work has ever seen because of this guy's inks. Who's your favorite personally of all those inkers that you've worked with?
Oh, that's hard to say. It depends on, I think it depends on what it was I was drawing. Mark Pennington, I actually requested twice on some things because I really liked his pen work on me. Tom Palmer, I love because he's Tom Palmer, but it was a little overpowering.
He tends to what people call Palmerize everybody he
Yeah, I loved Klaus's stuff, but again, it became very Klaus looking. Scott Hanna's stuff I liked early on, but as I got more organic, I didn't think his ink line matched it as well, because it was more mechanical. He was perfect for JRJR, you know, that linear approach. Trying to think of who else. I know I'm forgetting people. But one thing that what kills me is when they change faces, when they change like eyes, you know, eye direction. It sounds silly, but you can screw up a drawing if you mess up the eyes.
Yeah. Well, again, that's something Dan Lawler said. You go just be like, you know, a 1/16 of an inch off,
Yeah.
and it totally ruins the face.
Yep. Yep.
You know, something so small. Yes, but
Yep.
So we're gonna roll on in here and check out the colored version here in a second, if I can.
What year was that? 95?
95.
Yeah.
And here we go. Now we got the color, and you can see here it is, that color hold with those red lines. You can see why it's like this, because there's no black. It's all in color, and that's I learned. That's, again, these things I've learned is that's called a color hold, and I just think that's awesome. And like here you go. Look. Even in the colors, you have gradations from like this darker like mauve over here all the way up to like the light pink, and then like to like a highlighted area, almost yellow. Just very, very well done. That to me is a sign of a good colorist who can do stuff like this. I've learned this being immersed in the comic art as I have been, is because there have been times where I've seen the art in black and white, and I'll see things in it that I never saw in the published version, because the colors were either so overpowering or oversaturated, and it just took away from some of that stuff. It just kind of like you didn't really notice it. And you know, so I've come to understand, like, when you get a good colorist, it's like they understand how to put in like a gradation like this and not take anything away from the actual art itself.
This is the beginning of digital coloring too. The 1995. This was printed on like a slick stock, so you don't have you know, you have a much greater color palette at this point than you did when it was on newsprint. Started off with 65 colors, and then it went up to 85, and then hundreds. And now in Photoshop you have millions.
Yeah. You know, have you ever felt that, you know, there were like times where your work got, you know, too oversaturated with colors and whatnot, and it kind of took away from your work? Or
all the time?
Really?
All the time, yeah.
So how do you approach that now that you're doing all your own stuff? You know, how do you approach the colors?
I approach color the same way I approach light and dark, you know, is to use appropriate color for the mood of the image. You know, what is it I'm trying to say? Also, in the entirety of the page. For example, you've got the girl with the glasses here, and it's just flat color, basically. There's no highlight in her hair. She has brown hair, so it's a brown color. She's you know, Caucasian, so she basically just has Caucasian skin. There's no thought to dramatic lighting or anything, or what I call stage lighting, theatrical lighting, which I love in comics. Like that last panel right there, I'd have done something completely different there. I might have had a yellow highlight on the left side there, but then that whole other side here, I'd have put in a purple, you know, to put a cool color there. And focus on the warmth, which would be the highlight side on the one side, instead of trying to make it a skin color and then model it. You know, I think you can do a lot with just flat color if you use the right flat colors, if you use color theory, and not just try to model everything, which is a problem with a lot of comics today. Everything's modeled, so everything is flat. As a result of that, you have no sense of depth. What these colorists, you know, back in the old days here, it was about separation of forms and depth. That's what they used color for. They used to do things called knockouts, where let's say Bane was really angry here, he'd be all in red, you know, red being a fiery color, and it would just, you know, it's not that he's red, it's just that it's like a theatrical use of color.
The color is used to project the emotion of the moment.
Right. If a woman is, telling a guy he wants a divorce, you might want blue tones on her because she's cold, that kind of thing.
Well, that goes back to, again, just something that Dan Lawless told me. He says, like when he's approaching his work with the color, he goes, whenever I got like a hot color in the foreground, I want cool colors in the background because it pushes the image forward. He goes, and if it's the reverse, it's the same thing. If it's cool colors in the foreground, I want hot colors in the background to push the image forward.
Right.
Because that's how you get that projection, that sense of, like you said, depth.
Right. Right. And use the color. If you got a like overly detailed artist, say that you're working on, maybe use a flatter color for the background and not accentuate every single thing, so that background sits behind the also highly detailed figure in the foreground.
Yes, that makes perfect sense to me. So, but now we're going to get on to Graham's piece here. And again, like I said, this is variations on a theme, folk. We saw Bane from the old days, and now we get to see Bane from the new days. This is from Bane Conquest, number 3, and this is now, we saw Bane as he was a broken man, and now we see him more as the powerful man that we all know him to be. And so this was Graham's choice. This is the one he chose to showcase here. So tell me, Graham, what is it about this page that made you not just want to keep it, but what is it made you want to showcase this one today? What is it about the page, like you said, this has to be spotlight?
I like the storytelling in it, and I particularly love the last panel. There's a sense of depth. There's a sense of realism there. And to me, it's an immersive page. As he's walking away, you can feel the coldness in that valley. I really like that. And, we talked about inking techniques and stuff like that. Well, this is all inked by me, and it's a very different style than Eduardo's. This has a little bit of all of those guys I mentioned in there, particularly guys like Giordano and Klaus, who, for me, when they ink, they go 0 to 60 with their ink lines. Whereas like say Frank Cho uses a deadline. He uses an outline, like a French Nouveau style ink. I like these guys that use hair lines, but then these really fat, bold lines too. Like they just laid it down with a house brush. And it's to me, it's that balance of line weights that make the illustration look interesting to me.
Yes, that's something I've recently started getting more and more into as I've gotten into my comic art collecting and whatnot. As I've noticed like the line weight thing, like up here you got the real fine lines on his face, but then you got like this big thick line right here on the shoulder. And I've noticed this more and more as I've gotten more and more into this stuff. It's just that seems like one of the most important things in comic book art is line weights. If you don't understand the line weights, your art will be, very flat and very, uninspired, shall we say. That would be my because you're gonna lack depth, you're gonna lack dimension, you're gonna lack, a gravitas that's in the art when you get those line weights just right. And again, not every line weight is equal, and you have to understand when to make it thick, when to make it thin. When just like with this here, like this right here, this close up of the face. You got the shadow over here, but the rest it's open so it can breathe. And you need to understand line weights to get those kinds of effects of letting something breathe and when to darken it up. And that's like a key to this to me. And I've become much more interested in like understanding line weights.
And I like the juxtaposition of the blacks and the whites in the last panel. How, you've got this white area here of the snow that's cutting across his midsection where all of a sudden it's all black. And then vice versa. You got the black from the hill there as it cuts into a lighter section of him. So it makes the figure pop really cool, I think. And I like to draw with the brush. When I'm inking, I'm not just tracing my own drawings. I'll leave I'll leave the drawing solid, but I'm not putting in line weights or putting a lot of, gobbledygook in there. I like to reserve that for when I am drawing with ink, so that it has a more life to it.
Yeah.
Like that
Well,
pant leg here on Bane. I know I didn't pencil that in. I was drawing that in ink.
well, let's get on over to the color version here, and we can see again. So you can see once again. Again, you got some brighter colors here on Bane and on this guy with these grays and the skin tones, and then get cooler colors in the background to help push them forward, to make them stand out. It's like this is what I want you to see. I want you to see the heaviness of Bane and him dragging this guy through the snow. That's what I want you to focus on.
Yeah. Now this was colored by Greg Wright, who colors almost all of my Compass Comics books, because I really, he and I are very simpatico in color theory and what we like.
Yeah, like I said, the only thing I'll say about it, my one critique, and this is just a personal guy, just I know that Bane was based off what the luchadors, I think they're called, the Mexican wrestlers, and I know they wear masks like this, but I think the classic Bane mask is just the better version with the nose and the mouth covered, because you get no indication of emotion from the character other than the lenses of the eyes, which have those like angular look on it, like it's always angry. So it's like angry red eyes, and that's all you see, and like that made him a lot more menacing, than this version here with the mouth and the nose showing, where you can actually see emotion from him. Like you see like right here, so how contemplative he is right here in this shot.
Well, that's my original mask design.
I know. I'd read somewhere, and I know, I think you did an interview sometime, several years ago, and you had mentioned how this was the original way you would imagine Bane, and then it was changed to the one that we all first saw in Vince Bane. But I think that was definitely a change for the better, in my view. I think it was, because again, it made him more mysterious. It made him more menacing.
I don't disagree. I mean, functionally, this is much better, because if you ever wore a mask and you didn't have a nose cut out, or you had your mouth covered, you're dying within, you're just sweating like there and stinking up the mask, especially if you're exerting yourself. So I was designing it for functionality originally, but when editorial decided to cover it up, I understood it and I agreed. It became iconic that way, and that's how people. But Chuck and I got to do whatever we wanted on this series, so we decided, well, we'll pull out all the strings, we'll show them the original Bane mask, and then by the end, in Bane Conquest 11 or 12, he reverts to his original mask.
Yeah, like I said, I think normally a lot of, and I'm sure you got plenty of stories you could tell about editorial putting in stuff like, oh, that totally ruins it. It's not exactly, that's not at all what it should be. But I think in this one case, this specific case, I think they actually made the right call with that
I think
man.
So.
So I guess we can't blame the editors all the time. just most of the times we'll blame them, not all the time. But yeah, this is just a great page. Like I said, lots of great storytelling vibe. Just it just like mine, it's a talking heads page. But again, just even when we look, we'll go back and look at the art here. You can see the gravitas of it. There's motion in here. There's emotion in here. Like I said, that like the shot right here of him, you can see the contemplation that he is going through in this moment. And it really just again, that's again, even without the dialogue, you just know that this is like a very important discussion that they're having, and before he ends up dragging him off. And that's really the powerfulness of visual storytelling, when you can get someone to even without the dialogue, they can understand what this scene is. Again, because that's something else I think is missing today in this stuff. When these guys who do stuff today, people sitting around a table eating and talking, and it's like, but like, what are they talking about? There's like nothing to indicate that this is an important discussion, or this is just a fluff page, or what is this? Where it's like, see, with yours, you can see this is a serious situation. This is like a momentous moment of some kind. You may not know all the details, but you get the sense like this is an important scene. This matters in what's happening. And I think that's another thing that's kind of missing in today's stuff, is that kind of gravitas.
Sitting around talking is boring. People, they're writing things as if it's their lives. It's like, well, that's not a superhero's life. We want action. We want, the example I love to use is I think it was Fantastic Four 27, where you open up the cover, and on the splash page is this chaotic scene of this baby dinosaur running towards you, the thing trying to grab his tail, the torch flaming on, like shooting a fireball at it, knocking over the furniture and everything, and all this stuff is happening. That goes on for like maybe 2 more pages. Has nothing to do with the story. It's a setup because the little dinosaur came through Dr. Doom's time machine, and then the story's about Dr. Doom's time machine, and Reed was doing an experiment. But they opened it up with action. They didn't sit around talking. It opened up in action, and that became the catalyst for the actual story to begin.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I've always said. I think it is even Chuck himself who said, like, when he's writing his stories, 9 times out of 10 he likes to start it with action right at the beginning, like just to shake you up, to get your attention. Hey, pay attention, something's going on. And then after he's got your attention, all right, now I'll get into the story. Is that something that you also feel is something you add to your work that way? Because with stuff like Alien Alamo and Ghost of Matacuma Key, I felt like you kind of brought that same verve in some of your work that you're doing now. Joe Frankenstein, for example. You get that opening with like some action, and then it's like, and now we'll get into the story. Now that we've got your attention.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Lead with action when you can. And it's easier to do with established characters too. If they're meeting them for the first time, sometimes you have to do a little intro. But yeah, I'm always leaning into action, and they could be talking while they're fighting or while the action's happening or something, but even the action can be just something as simple as, let's say it opens up in a park, like you're in Central Park, and it's, Reed and Sue are walking through the park and they're having an argument or something like that. Doesn't sound action packed, but you can have stuff like, have a mime in the foreground juggling, a kid on a skateboard, flying out over the air, maybe flying over Reed and Sue, that kind of stuff. And they're nonplussed by it because they're hot into this argument. There's a million ways to work this stuff in and make it visually interesting, but still get to the crux of what it is you're trying to say in the story.
Exactly. It's, again, just fundamentals. Goes back to that same thing, just the fundamentals of things. So okay, well, that takes care of our art portion for this. And so now before we bid Graham a fond farewell, we'll do some more sharing here. And we gotta make sure to do the shill for Graham here, because he got lots of stuff going on. And we'll start it off here with of course probably the biggest one right now, which is his current campaign. And we'll show here Shanu 77.
Yeah.
This is the new campaign. We got right here. We got, now it's 5 days left. By the time you guys are watching this, because this is pre-recorded, you're probably going to be out like 3 days left.
Yeah.
But
it ends Wednesday.
Yeah, he's almost 37,000. We got 50,000 to get the stretch goal for the mini print. And come on, folks, let's get that up there. I want that mini print. Damn it, I want that mini print. Got to make it happen. But this is the Shanu. This is Graham's. Again, love of monsters. You got right here. He's back. It's 1977. The storm of the century is paralyzing Buffalo, New York, when trucker Hank Donovan comes across a scene of unimaginable horror. A car stuck in the snow, its occupant shredded to pieces. The only survivor, a newborn baby. Driven by a desperate need for redemption, he vows to protect the infant at any cost. But the snow hides a predator far worse than the storm, the Shanu, a ravenous creature stalking the blood-soaked drifts. Hungry for its next kill. Can Hank outrun his demons and the monster before it claims them both? And just like, wow, just it's like that classic. All you need is a great announcer to announce that stuff, like a Gary Owens or somebody to just announce it. And it's like, oh God, it's so epic. It's so epic.
Put some scary music behind them,
Yes. And then we got here's our cover.
Yeah, there's our main cover. This is our 70s trade dress cover.
Yeah, this is the one I backed simply because it had dialogue on the cover. I missed those days of dialogue on the cover.
Yeah,
it was always a lot of fun when we saw dialogue on the cover. Then we got the sketch cover.
Yeah, that one's not available. That was a 24-hour cover, but it will go live again for the last 24 hours.
Nice.
So
And
you'll
I
be
also
able to
see it,
grab that.
and it's also in the Ultimate Collector's Box, I think, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it's automatically in the collector's box. And this one's a wraparound cover with no trade dress. It's a virgin cover, and that's only in the collector's box.
And see, and again, this plays right into something you were talking about with the color. It's like, you want it, like you said, Bane is angry, so you make him all in red, not because he has red skin, but just to
Right.
convey the emotion of the moment. And here's that very thing here is like the bloodiness, the scariness of this. So it's all in red. I love
Right.
that.
Yeah. And this is a signed cover. I'll be signing all of these.
Nice.
Yeah. There's the diner where people are going to be holed up.
And
then we have some pages.
Some pages of the story, which is awesome. Commissions. Any of the commissions still available on this?
There's 3 slots left.
Very cool.
3 slots left for that.
I love this. So you got Bane in one with Batman, then you got Batman with the Phantom, and it's kind of like this variations on the theme. It seems to be the go around on this video here. And we got for surprise specialty cover. Woo!
Yeah, if we hit 100,000.
Well, let's do it, folks. We're over a third of the way there. Let's get it going. And then, oh wow, Chenoo 1776.
Yeah,
man, is it the battle for Trenton wasn't tough enough?
Right? maybe Washington had some help.
Wow. And then the plushie. There it is, the plushie.
There it is right here. This big old plushie here is in the collector's box. And he's got a heart just for you.
Just pray it's not your heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, snow globes. Nice.
Yeah, those are super cool. I did those for the first campaign, and this is a different one for this one.
And then challenge coin.
Yeah.
The mother trucker hat. Nice.
Yeah. Hank Donovan wears that in the story. I'm looking at that's of all the stuff. That's the one I'm looking forward to getting for myself too. I can't wait to wear that.
You can wear it during some of your stuff with the professionals. Just sit there with your mother trucker hat on.
Absolutely, I'll wear it at conventions too.
But yeah, there we go, folks. It's the Chenoo 77. It's ending in a few days.
Yeah, get out there and back it, folks.
Get out there and back it. Like I said, even if we can't hit the 100,000 mark for the specialty cover, come on, folks, let's hit that 50,000. Let's get that mini print.
Yeah. And if you missed the first book, there's a catch-up tier also where you can get the first one and the second one together.
Nice. Well, I've been backing your stuff since the beginning, so I already have the Chenoo, and I backed mine here. Perfect. So if I backed it, folks, you can back it too. Get out there and back the Chenoo today before time is up. Get this book. Great horror, great action, great scares, and all the drama you expect in a good horror flick.
Absolutely.
You can be found in the Chenoo right here. And it's the perfect time of year. It's the dead of winter. So there you go. It's what better way to get in the winter than to have a snowbound monster. There you go.
Yep.
So that's one thing for Graham. We got the Chenoo. But then if you want to get in contact with Graham, there's several ways you can do that. And we're going to showcase these here for you. First of all, there's always the Compass Comics website.
Yeah,
where you can pick up some of the back issues he's done here. We got Alien Alamo, we've got Joe Frankenstein. We got the shop right here. All kinds of merch. There's the Ghost of Matacumba Key.
And the variant covers are up there too, as well.
Giant size two-fisted manly tales. There you go. That was a goodie. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Lots of great apparel here. Oh, look at that! A Chenoo hoodie. My God, I'm about to order one of those.
They're really cool.
Yeah, I like that. I have to get some Christmas money up and get one of those for myself.
You need it. You need one, James.
Yes, we need one for those winter days. That's right. but yeah, a lot of good stuff here. Oh, and then we got Sunshine State, of course.
Right.
Now
If you
I know you
sign
just
up,
recently did. I know you just recently did a collection of these guys in a hardcover. Is that going to be on Compass Comics soon, available on there?
yes, they're all in, but we haven't fulfilled those orders yet. We're still fulfilling Escape from Monster Island. So as soon as Escape is done, we'll begin shipping the Sunshine State hardcover books. And then the leftovers will be up on the Compass Comics website. If you sign there where it says join, if you sign up for the newsletter, then every Monday you'll get a Sunshine State strip emailed to you.
Yes, I'm on the email list. I get them every Monday. I love those. It's a nice way to start the week with a little bit of humor.
Exactly. Exactly.
I asked about the book because I wasn't able to back it when you had the campaign going because I was a little short on funds at the time. And then when I went to go back it, then you put out Shanu 77. I'm like, I got to choose. I'm like, I got to go with the Shanu. Got to go with Shanu because I got the first one. I got to get the second one.
Got to.
I Shanu instead. So if this becomes available on the website, I definitely would pick up a copy of Sunshine State.
Yeah, it'll be up there.
Very nice, very nice. And like I said, so right here, it's Compass Comics, folks. Right here, you can't miss it. It's got the Shanu right here, right in the banner. I love that. I love that banner. It's very sweet. And so yeah, definitely check it out. Lots of great. Oh, here's Monster Island right down here.
Those aren't available on the website right now because we're fulfilling that campaign. And as soon as that's done, then all the Monster Island books will be up there as well.
Nice, nice. So definitely head on over to Compass Comics, folks. Lots of great books, lots of great apparel, all kinds of cool stuff there, and more coming, as Graham says. So you definitely want to check those things out and give the backing today. And of course, if you want to talk with Graham, not in the sense of, hey, I want to buy some stuff, you can always make sure to head on over to Graham's own channel here on YouTube, which has almost 6,000 subscribers, which is like 20 times more than me. So there we go. And that's got great things like Words of Iron. He does the Landing Party with Aaron Lopresti and others, where they talk about great Star Trek. You got the Professionals that rotates around, and Graham hosts those as well. You know, lots of fun little stuff here. And I always I appreciate when you do these kinds of things where you show us the fulfillment stuff, like when stuff's coming in and you do quick little short video to show us it's all getting done. Yeah, I appreciate that. That's one of the reasons why I always continue to back you, because you make sure to keep everyone informed on where the status is on things. And I think that's a very important thing in the crowdfunding game that some people aren't as up on as they should be, but you are. And again, I really love when I get these little videos like that. It makes me feel with confidence when I have to back the next campaign. It's like, is he going to get it fulfilled? Of course he will. Look at this. He's got videos showing he's getting them fulfilled.
Right. Yeah. All my books have fulfilled. They've fulfilled on time. If they've been late, it's because of things out of my control. Sometimes you're at the mercy of the printer's schedule. In the case of Joe Frankenstein 3, there was a printing error. And I didn't want to ship them out that way. So I destroyed them all, had to pay to have them redone. And that took an extra month. But that's just the way I am. I want my backers to be happy with and trust Compass Comics with their hard-earned money, so it's really important to me to send out the best possible product. So I'm not going to send out something that's got a major mistake in it, and just say, well, we'll take care of you next time. So
thanks for your money. Better luck next time, buddy.
Yeah, better luck next time. No. It was important to suck that one up, own it, and get it right. And then the finished product was amazing. It looked great when it was finally done correctly.
Oh yeah, you definitely make sure you guys on YouTube make sure to subscribe to Graham's channel. Help get him over that 6,000 mark. He's got to try to compete with Chuck Dixon, who's over 10. So come on, we got to get Graham's numbers up. We got to get him closer to Chuck's numbers. He deserves
Chuck broadcasts more than me. He's a writer. He's got all the time in the world, that lazy bum.
And what's he doing besides tapping?
He spends half his time around the pool. He writes a couple lines and he goes around by the pool.
But yes, definitely, folks. Again, just Graham Nolan's channel. It's right here, just Graham Nolan. Probably just put it up in the search bar right here. It'll bring you right to him. Like I said, lots of great stuff in here. Words of Iron. I love that. You know, little you know, inflections of insight. And then again, whenever he has stuff going on, he's always putting up some stuff here, like for Monster Island, Joe Frankenstein, Ghost of Matacumba Key, you know, all kinds of stuff. So if you want to keep up on what's going on Compass Comics and with Graham, right here is the place to go. His YouTube channel right here. And then of course the last thing we have here for Graham, because you know we haven't promoted him enough yet. So let's just do a little more, just a little bit more. And of course,
is it my bank account that they could just throw money at?
I don't think I want to. I don't think you want me sharing that part. No,
well,
but,
that's true. That's true.
But what we are going to share is your Twitter or X account right here. Is another place you can see Graham. You know, he's on here. You can see he posts up fairly regularly on this. You know, with some stuff, all kinds of updates. Again, if you haven't got updates through the email and you haven't got it at Compass Comics, come to Graham's X account. You'll see updates of what's going on. See right here, he even tells you just closing on Wednesday is the Shanu 77. So, you get the heads up before things end. And, and then whatever else is on his mind, like, right here about the artwork here with Frankenstein, just all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, Mary
and then of course, yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. So, definitely a place to hook up with Graham. Again, as you can see, I'm already following him because, hey, I want to know what's going on. I got to stay informed. So there it is. So right here on you got his name is G Nolan 12. That's his handle here on X. So you can check him out. Just drop him a note. Tell him, hey Graham, how's it going? Hey, how's when's the next book coming out? When's Shanu 1776? We're all waiting for the next one. We want to see George Washington fighting with the Shanu. That's what we want.
Well, my email is easy to remember too. It's graham@compasscomics.com.
There you go. So there you go, folks. So these are all the places you can go directly. These are all the places you can go to check out Graham's stuff. And like I said, make sure to back Shanu. I'll have links to all this stuff down here in the description section below. So if you guys, you don't feel like digging around, it's all right there for you guys. Also, along with my links as well. So make sure to check those out down below. But I want to thank Graham Nolan for joining me today. I hope you guys got some fun out of this. Saw some sweet art with his favorite son, Bane. It doesn't get much better than that. And I will be back more with some stuff very shortly because I'm always working on things, as you know. And once again, a special thank you to our guest here, Graham Nolan, taking time out from his very busy schedule to do this. It's very much appreciated. And I will be back soon with some more stuff. And so until next time, folks, take care.
Thanks, James.